Thanks everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced, and this is a game from Grenke Chess Classic, and this is an old game, but this is one such to remember because this is a game played between Awonder Liang and Magnus Carlsen, and this is a brilliant attacking masterpiece, and the moves that you have to be careful when you're attacking your opponent, especially against Magnus. And here, just without further ado, let's just start with this game because this is a great one. So here, just e4, e6, and we have d4 and d5, just going for the French defense. We have knight to c3, knight to f6, and just this bishop to g5. And we have this d captures, the exchange variation, and we have this knight captures, knight bd7, we have knight captures, just exchanges a pair of knights, and we have this knight to f3, but just the c5, just challenging that center, and we have this c3, a6, and just bishop to d3, and we have c captures, knight captures, and just going for this h6, just pushing that bishop back. We have bishop to h4, but just this bishop to c5. And this is all standard theory, and we have this castle, we have knight bd3, but just this bishop to e7, and we have queen to e2, but just queen to c7, bishop to g3 attacking the queen, and we have this bishop to d6, rook a d1, bishop captures, and this pawn captures, and we have e5, just pushing that pawn, and we have this rook f to e1, rook to e8, and just this knight to d2, and we have bishop to g4, just attacking the queen. Now the only moves you have to push that f pawn. We have f3, bishop to e6, and now you can already see that white's pieces might seem like constricted, but you could, with this bishop on this beautiful diagonal, you could be building up a beautiful attack, and that's exactly what Awonder does. Because here knight to e3 was played. If you could get this capture in, I mean, it's going to be very much difficult because the queen will join in the party, and it's going to be very much difficult for Magnus, because here Magnus goes for queen to b6 check, king moves, and instead he had pulled a Capablanca because he had captured bishop caps on a2, and he just grabbed a pawn like nothing is happening in this position. So here just b3, just trying maybe to trap that bishop, but not really, because here bishop caps on b3, just rook to b1, and this a5. But now the troublesome move, knight captures on f6, and here you cannot capture with the queen because your bishop would hang. So here g captures was played, but now just queen to e4, and now it's getting very difficult, because here Magnus thought there was nothing in the position, because, well, maybe you can just get away, but not in this position, because here rook a to c8 Magnus played. He thought there's nothing in this position, but here queen to h7 check, king moves, and now queen caps on h6 with a check, but queen to e7, and now hopefully you can all see the move. And the move, you can pause the video, but the move is just such beautiful, because I'm not stopping here. The attack is just such brilliant here. Rook captures on e5, and you cannot capture because your queen would be hanging. So here king to d7, Magnus realized it. He ran for his life, but here just bishop to b5 check, and now you see the problem, because that rook is just hanging, and you're going to be in a completely worse position. Here king to c7, and the move order that you have to play to win this game is not rook captures. I know that rook is hanging, but you don't want to capture from that rook. The move is this bishop captures on e8, and only now after f captures comes, you capture with a check, and after you trade the queens, you have king capture, rook captures on b3. Now you're up a piece, and here just king to c5. Now just rook b5 check, king to c4, and just rook caps on e5. Now you're just completely up a piece in a winning endgame. You cannot even push these pawns because the bishop guards that diagonal, and you're in a completely winning position. But here what Awonder thought was maybe both things were just equal. Here he played rook captures, but now the trouble is here queen captures on b5, and now after rook caps on c8, king captures, and queen caps on queen to f8 check. Now you're just an exchange down, and that endgame you're just completely winning, but now you're just exchange down. Still, white is just completely winning, but you have to find the right move order. Here king to c7 was played, but just queen captures on f7 with check, bishop captures on f7, and now just rook captures. Here just exchanging queen in a different way. We have just a4 pushing the pawn, and now you have to be very careful, because this bishop is guarding this diagonal. If that pawn manages to get to a2, it's going to be very disastrous for white, because there is no way that you can stop that pawn then from promotion. So here the move that you have to find is just rook to b4. When the pawn moves, you just get behind the pawn, and it's going to be completely winning. The idea is that when you play this bishop to b3, now you play this king to g1 and this rook to c6, king to f2, bishop to c2, attacking, but now just trapping that rook out of the way. It might seem like a trap, but it's really not, because here just king to e2, but just king to d2, but just pushing that f5 pawn, king to d2, and just king to d5. Now you might seem like, how are you going to win this game, because black is going to push those pawns, and maybe with that pawn, your rook is going to be trapped. But the problem is you have 3-1 advantage on the other side, and it's going to be very much difficult to stop those pawns here. Rook to b1, just waiting move, seeing what black would do, and if you decide to push your pawns b5, you just happily give back the exchange. Rook captures, and after pawn captures, now you go for king to c1, king to c4, and just going for this g4. This g4 move is the only move that wins the game in this position, because here after f4, now you have a clear path. King would have to join, not that, king would have to join in, and once you gobble up these pawns, you'll have a pass pawn here, and you'll have two corrected pass pawns here as well. So in a completely winning position. But here Awonder thought he was very much low on time, so you cannot blame him, but he thought that everything is winning, so he went for this rook to a5. But this just doesn't work, because this just loses a complete tempo, because here you would be doing the same thing, attacking the pawn, and the bishop would have to join in. But now this is problem. So here bishop to b3 was played, but now just g4, and now you try and push those pass pawns. Maybe you think you're queening ahead, and you are, but you have to still find it in the correct order. And this is the Magnus effect, because Magnus actually just plays these moves in such an amazing tenacity that you just cannot help yourself. You have to play every move in the correct order, and if you don't, you're just in a completely losing position. Here b6 was played, but here rook to a7 check, king to c6, and just f4, just pushing those pawns. b5, but just this g5, f captures, and we have this f captures. But now just finally going for this king to b6, attacking the rook, rook to e8, king to b7, rook to e8, and just a3. Black has started to push those pawns, and you can still stop them very easily because you don't have dark squared bishop. Here g6, but now just finally going for this a2, rook to e1, king to c6, and just g7. You're gonna have a promotion, but unfortunately that bishop is just guarding that square. So here bishop to g8, but just king to g3, king to d5, rook to a1, king to e4, and the only move in this position that you can ensure a draw in this position is just rook to d1. And we went from winning to just completely winning endgame, but now to a draw, because here you have to cut off the king from getting just defending those pawns and going for that promotion. But here Awonder thought that there is nothing and he's queening faster, but he played this king to g4, but now this king to d3, and he's in a completely losing position. Here c4 was tried, but just bishop captures on c4, and this king to f5, b4, rook to c1, bishop to g8, and king to f6 and b3. And here rook to c8 was played, but just a1 queen, and it was on this move, on move 54, that Awonder Liang resigned the game, and Magnus got this spectacular victory from a completely losing position. I mean, it's insane that that rook captures move, that rook captures on move was on e5. I mean, from there on it was completely winning, but still Magnus managed to get this win in just 54 moves. So yeah, kudos to him. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming up with another amazing game, so stay tuned for that, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon.